hello and welcome again to the thing. We're just the thing now. It's Ethan, who is of the thing.
This is Ben of the thing.
I'm a thing with an A. The A for Andrew. We're off to a great start.
Funny and original. I would like to apologize for this episode. My laptop fan sounds like it's blasting off to the moon, so apologies in advance for the not good sound of this, but we do what we have to. Am I right, fellow gamers?
Epic gamer moment.
Let's talk about video games. I usually, for the most part, kind of go last in my talking about the games in which I've played recently, but I'm going to shake things up and I'm going to go first this time because I'm the host and I make the rules.
Brutal.
Ooh, yeah. It was funny. Last episode I was talking about, getting back into Yakuza as well as Ratchet and Clank, but I totally fell off of those games. And obviously I'm going back to them, but a little game called Super Mario Odyssey kind of entered my life, and it kind of completely distracted me from playing almost anything else for a little while.
Oh my god, this is, yes.
So, for reference, I have hit credits in the game and I have collected more moons. I'm currently at around a little over 200 moons. I know, of course, that there is a final challenge sort of thing that arises at 500. I will get there eventually, but after hitting credits, I felt pretty satisfied with it for now. But I've been picking it up and I've been just kind of like running around in different areas and picking up moons every once in a blue moon, and that's kind of how I intend to play it until maybe I get a little dedicated back into it again to get that 500. I wanted to say, because I actually gave my whole history of playing 3D Mario games on this podcast, because funny enough, because before we even started this, I never actually finished a 3D Mario game. And I always had the intention of doing so. It was just a lack of access to those kind of games in my younger years, and because I never had an N64, I never really had a GameCube. I would play these games at my friends' houses, but I was never able to actually finish them. So I got that 3D Mario collection thing on the Switch. I played, again, 64, Sunshine, and Galaxy. I have not played Galaxy 2, 3D Land, or 3D World yet. I obviously am intending to play those at my earliest convenience. But I got Mario Odyssey, and I've been playing that, and just damn, it is excellent. It is a absolutely awesome game.
Awesome.
This was what I've been wanting from 3D Mario for my whole time playing through these games. This is what I've been waiting for. Now, all those previous games all have good things and good merits in their own right. There's a lot of great advancements in technicality and control, in visuals. Mario is very much a pushing the bar forward, what can we do next in games, very innovative. Each entry sort of feels, and Odyssey feels like the capstone to that. The control is just incredibly fluid. It feels just amazing to play. Visually speaking, it looks really good. It's on the Switch, and it's trying to be a bit of a graphical powerhouse game for the Switch, and that kind of shows in some of the texture detail and draw distances, which aren't really that great, but they're like minor nitpicks in a game like this. It visually looks great. Control is great. And the level design. This is some of my probably the best level.
Hello?
That's my alarm went off on my phone for when we usually get up and start recording this. Oops. Anyway, where was I getting? Oh yeah, level design. It's some of the best level design I've really experienced. Period. I gotta say, I never really heard many people talk about this level, but that underwater level with the fish people, and you kind of like swim around, and you have the platforming stuff on the top, and you got the swimming stuff on the bottom, and you can jump into the little building things, like kind of a la Star Wars Episode 1 Naboo, whatever.
Way better.
I think that's one of my favorite levels of the whole game, if not my favorite level of the whole game, just because of how originally designed it is. It's excellent.
Yeah, one of my favorite parts of that level is you take hold of one of the cheeps, one of the fish. You can jump out of the water, get out of the cheep, do a wall jump off like one of the platforms that are like floating above the air, and you can basically skip like the entire like castle part by doing that.
Jeez.
There's so much fun like little like shortcuts you can take in that game. It's awesome.
Oh yeah, most definitely. And that's what I really like about it. It's very much a player freedom sort of game, and it just kind of sits you down, and you got the toolbox for you to play around with, and it just lets you just go hog wild. And I'm not going to compare Mario to Prey or anything like that, but it kind of reminds me a bit of how the immersive sim genre kind of gives you all of the tools that are necessary for finishing something, and then they just kind of let you go hog wild and just be like, all right, figure it out. Like, you have these things and whatever, now have fun, figure out what they can do. And it's that discovery of going from kind of getting your bearings to when you're by the end of the game. My main method of travel is going through a triple jump, throwing my hat to gain a little more air, move just a tiny bit, and then dash to like do the dive thing, like while in midair, to bounce on the hat and then dive again. That's my main method of travel by the end of the game, because I'm getting enough air and distance to fly where I need to go. It's great. It's real great. I do, as much as I love the game, it is like a strong 9 out of 10. I do have one crippling problem with the game, and it is that there's just too many damn moons in the game. And this is kind of how I felt as I was playing the game. When I first started playing it, the frequency of moons that I was grabbing was a very big dopamine release. It's like I felt great progression in the game. I was like, oh yeah, it feels great. You're being consistently rewarded. The problem is, the more you're being consistently rewarded, the less rewarding that actually feels the more you play the game. And I just kinda I was playing the game and having a blast with it through its gameplay mechanics, not by grabbing moons. The central progression mechanic of the game, I just could not care less at that point. And it kind of sucks, because there's a lot of really fun moons to collect, and I got plenty of those, but there's also way too many duplicate moons. So much of doing the same thing, but in a different place. Like, cool, I swear, how many Plant-a-Seed moons are there in the game? Like, at least, over 10 of them, maybe over 15. Ground pound moons, there's a shitload of those. And I know there's a lot of people who could be like, well, don't get those moons or anything. Well, I actively not get the key progression token in the game. Like what kind of what sort of cherry pick your gameplay experience bullshit excuse is that? Like, it's just, yeah, I don't know. Again, I love it, and it's really great, but just the sheer frequency of the progression, it really wears thin on the reward factor really fast. And the main thing that was carrying me through the game was the amazing level designs and the traversal and getting better at the controls. And the boss fights are pretty fun too. There's a lot of really good boss fights in the game. Those were the main thing that were really pulling me through. I wasn't necessarily really caring a whole lot about, you know, ooh, I gotta track down this moon, ooh, I gotta get this moon, or whatever. It's like, oh, I'm here. That's very, a moon is very obviously here. I might as well just do it while I'm here. So that's what it kind of became as I progressed. But nevertheless, it's still a fantastic game. I absolutely love it. It's amazing, and that's really like my one problem with the whole game. And yeah, it is a big problem. Like, I'm not gonna lie, it is a pretty substantial issue with the game. But with everything else being so strong and so amazingly put together and handcrafted in that game, I can take that one issue and I can, you know, I can acknowledge it and say, yeah, that is a problem with the game, but I still am in love with it nonetheless.
Well, that's awesome, man. Super happy to hear that you enjoy it. If I may weigh in, though, I have 100%ed it myself, which is 830 moons, I believe, total.
I believe so, yeah.
Yeah, so I have done that, and yeah, I definitely would not recommend that for you. It's what you talked about. It's like the somewhat repetitive moons. That is definitely the case. I definitely feel that way too when I tried to 100% it, and I don't have much incentive to like do that again. I've gotten the true ending twice, actually. The 500 whatever moon. Like, I've gotten that twice, and what I really like about Odyssey, Odyssey's mechanic of having so many moons. So what I like particularly like about it is that on subsequent playthroughs, it's really fun to kind of plan your strategy. Like, I'm gonna get this moon, then this moon, and like the most efficient way possible. Like, I personally find that gameplay loop even funner than like doing it the first time, really. Which sounds like contradictory. It's like, I think a lot of like the fun of that game is also like there's a lot of moons that you just don't expect will happen. There's a lot of like objects and like hidden areas that you wouldn't necessarily, like on first glance, they probably don't have anything special, but it turns out they have a moon. Like, that's really fun on your first playthrough. And on subsequent playthroughs, it's really fun to like know all that and then like plan your route accordingly. And Mario's movement is so great in that game that you can do all sorts of crazy traversal stuff. So speedrunning that game is like, you know, probably the best experience I've had speedrunning, even though I suck at it. Like, I'm not nearly as good as like some of the best people, but yeah, a ton of fun. I actually played it this past couple weeks as well again. I think this is like my 8th time beating it or something.
Nice.
Yeah, now I'm like just trying to like mix it up. Like when I play boss fights, like instead of running around to like my new strategy, it's more crippling than helpful. I try and like roll everywhere as opposed to run everywhere. And that was a lot of fun. It was a lot harder. I died a few times, but it's just fun to like just toy around with that game. Like, it is like the ultimate toy box game, really.
Yeah, most agreed on that.
Mm-hmm. You did finish Galaxy, right? I don't remember.
Yeah, I did.
Okay.
I did.
So yeah, would you agree with me that like each subsequent 3D Mario game gets better than the last one?
Yeah, I agree. To an extent. I do think that Sunshine is definitely kind of like one of probably the weakest one I've played so far.
Yeah.
But generally speaking, yeah, that's certainly the case.
Yeah, 64 and Sunshine have like, they're pretty like, even in a lot of ways. 64 I think has like it has less annoying moments, and but Sunshine has the better visuals and it has FLUDD, so it like kind of like breaks out in that way. It's an interesting conversation, like which one's better between those two, but between Galaxy and like then Odyssey gets better than that.
Oh yeah,
I wouldn't be surprised.
Yeah.
This would both be good and really sad. But what I think Nintendo might do with Galaxy 2 is release it on its own at some point in the future on the Switch with like the button instead of like having to shake the Wii remote. But they're going to sell it on its own for like $60.
Yeah, of course they will, because that's Nintendo, and Nintendo's gonna Nintendo.
Yeah, I mean, It'd be really fun to play that game with a button as opposed to shaking the Wii remote. But the Galaxy 2 is my previous favorite before Odyssey. So like I like that even more than the first one. Although I kind of like lumped the two Galaxy games together like as one big game, kind of like the Kill Bill movies or something. But like it's yeah, so like the Galaxy games together might be my favorite video game experience, but Odyssey is my favorite like singular game. So yeah.
All right.
It's awesome. I'm so happy you like that. So that's so great to hear.
I'm happy to make you proud with my opinions.
Well, speaking of making people proud, I also purchased the Resident Evil 2 and 3 remakes.
Yeah.
with my birthday money. And I've gotten to play around with Resident Evil 2. I haven't gotten to 3 yet, but yeah, oh my gosh, so much fun. So much fun.
Oh, yeah.
It was, it's generally quite startling in a lot of ways. I'm like, a lot of the time. It's great. So good. It's such like, it's really a game that like really puts you in it, you know. It's like, it's very easy to get absorbed with it. Like going through all the rooms and like, you never know like when a zombie's gonna pop out or whatever, and like whatever, and there's those like freaky like lickers things.
Oh,
like
yeah.
that was oh my gosh, that one part where like you blow up that like gate and like you get the statue medallion, right? Then you like walk out and then the liquor like falls through the ceiling. Oh my, that got like it got a legit like yelp out of me. That was awesome. Awesome.
Nice.
Yeah, such a do you ever want to play the Resident Evil games, Ben? They're so good.
You really should.
I do want to, yeah.
Yeah, I think you'd like them a lot. Yeah, they're really good. I would see, what's the last thing I did in the game? Because another thing I did is I jumped back into Spider-Man. What happened with that, to reiterate, is so my little brother's PS4 broke a long time ago, and he asked me if like he could borrow mine, just to like play Overwatch or whatever. And what ended up happening is I got distracted with like a bunch of Xbox and Switch games. And so after a while, he just kind of like used my PS4 pretty much exclusively. But since I got
usurped it.
Well, yeah, but I allowed him. It's not like he stole it from me. But yeah. Anyways, but since I bought the Resident Evil games, I kind of wanted to jump back into my PS4 games. And he actually has a job now, so he can afford to fix his old PS4. So it all works out in the end. But yeah, so what actually happened is my old file for Spider-Man got deleted. I only got to like where Shocker, like I think the first boss fight with him. So I didn't get that far into it. So I wasn't that annoyed with like having to start over. Like I didn't even remember the controls, so that was fine. I'm a lot further now. I'm let's see, the part where that like lady in white like kind of like pops out of her helicopter thing. Like I forget her name.
Oh,
but yeah. I got to that point, which seems like it's like 40% through the game, or something like that. I would
maybe say so.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's not too long in the story thing, which is honestly just nice, because if there's one thing that I like just do not like about a lot of open world games is that most of them are just way too bloated. But Spider-Man like knew when to shut the hell up and finish and not drag it out any longer. That's so appreciated.
You know, playing it after Sunset Overdrive, it's like same developers. So do you think that is there like any like game like background or anything with like Sunset Overdrive, were they like making that game as like prep for making a Spider-Man game like like that?
It really feels that way, because I mentioned that on our Sunset Overdrive episode, where I was like, going back and playing it after I had played Spider-Man, it's so cool to really see how a lot of the control advancements that they were making in Sunset Overdrive kind of made their way into Spider-Man. So, I mean, I wouldn't say that, you know, I would say that Sunset Overdrive was very much a, you know, Insomniac making the game they want to make. I don't think they were yearning to you know, like, oh, what else could we do with this and everything. I think they probably just like got that opportunity from Sony, and they're like, well, shit, we have all these traversal mechanics that we've already made. Why don't we bring some of these over? And they fit perfectly, perfectly great. In fact, they do even more in Spider-Man in a lot of ways. The web slinging just feels so good, and the momentum that you can carry. Oh my lord, boy,
My lord.
good,
Yeah.
good.
Yeah. Yeah, and the whole game is structured around the web slinging, which is super smart. Well, for the most part, there are stealth sections, which a lot of people have drawn criticism to. And I certainly like echo that. Like, it feels very odd to like go from the amazing like acrobatic wonder that is Spider-Man to like somebody that can only walk. Like, that's kind of weird. But I don't know, it's not enough to like actually ruin the game or anything, not even close. The stealth sections in that game are hilarious. Like, Spider-Man's like bright red and blue, and he's like up in the rafters and like nobody can see him. That's ridiculous, but it's also fun at the same time. Yeah. Seriously, like Ben, you're like in the rafters, right? And you're like webbing up people like 10 feet away from their buddies, and they just do not notice. Like, you're banging their heads on on like rods and stuff, and you're
flinging through the sky, uppercut a guy.
That's in like the museum section, right?
Yeah, and like Spider-Man is like, he's like, he doesn't stop quipping the whole time. So
yeah,
he's like
exactly.
This bright red and blue like guy that just doesn't stop whispering, just like basically like suffocating people, and nobody notices.
Gee,
guy in a skin tight
cosplay.
cosplay costume is just up in the rafters, just hanging people.
You're just quipping
Wouldn't
nonstop.
it be a shame?
Yeah.
Wouldn't it be a shame if all my quipping and everything and all this whispering that I'm doing to myself ended up getting me caught?
That would have been funny if you said that. I would have.
I'm trying to sneak around.
MJ, I'm trying to sneak around.
I'm being quiet and stealthy.
Dun 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 dun.
Spidey.
That's great. Yeah.
Spidey. All right, well, enough Metal Gear joking around.
That's all the games I've played. You want to go, Ben?
Sure.
I haven't finished, but you go first.
Oh, you haven't finished?
No, yeah, Andrew usurped the throne there.
You goddamn right I did. And I'm gonna keep it. Now I want
go,
Ben
Ben.
to talk.
Okay.
Yeah, let's let Ben go. He's been pretty quiet.
Well, I mean, I've only played one game because school's been pretty crazy this week. For to give you guys a perspective, I was planning on getting my geology homework is due every weekend, and so earlier this week I tried to get it all done before in the week, but math class decided to have 3 chapters a day to go over, and that we were going to we had to do all of them pretty much right after class. And so I was stuck doing math homework pretty much the whole first half of the week. And so I had no other choice but to do my geology homework during the weekend, and I still have work to do. But so the only game I was able to put time into this week was the game that we're going to be reviewing. So, and I didn't even get to finish it. So I don't have much gaming reports to give you guys this week, unfortunately. But
Did you play Doom Eternal?
You played the Ancient Gods Part 2.
I don't think that was this week though. Was it?
Oh, that doesn't
No, it
matter.
was.
It's been 2 weeks, since our last.
Oh yeah, it's been 2 weeks. Yeah, but in the last 2 weeks though, I did definitely play Doom Eternal: The Ancient Gods Part 1 and Part 2, and actually, me and Ethan both finished Ancient Gods Part 2 around the same time. We were fighting the boss at the same time, and I thought both expansions were excellent. The Ancient Gods Part 1 was I played both on the easiest difficulty because I don't know, I just didn't really, I was already getting my ass kicked with school, and I didn't also want to get my ass kicked while just playing a game in my free time, and I still got my ass kicked. So it's pretty tough. It's definitely harder than base game, and it really kind of forces you to use pretty much everything in your that you've learned from playing the base game. From that, I actually learned the weapon swap tactic where you swap between 2 weapons really quick to just dish out massive damage. And yeah, it was a lot of fun. I liked the Andrew Hoschel soundtrack. The presentation of it was pretty mind blowing. Like one of my favorite things was like when I started the DLCs was just how cool Atlantica looked from just the get go, and then finishing up the DLC in Amora, like that, where that whole like battle's going on, like in the whole like final battle type thing is raging in the background while you're killing demons on your way to the Dark Lord. That's just that's like one of the most epic things I've done in a game recently. So I personally really enjoyed it, and it was tons of fun. So yeah.
Awesome.
I additionally played more Doom Eternal this past little bit, because I played the Ancient Gods Part 2. I played Ancient Gods Part 1 a couple months after it released, but I played Part 2 when it came out, and for the most part I kind of second Ben's opinion about it. I do prefer Ancient Gods Part 1, though, and for several different reasons. Part 2 is really interesting. For those who have been very in with Doom Eternal over the past year, Part 2 it just kind of feels a little weird. And I feel a lot of that is due to development constraints with COVID and situations like that, where a lot of this is obviously out of the hands of the developers. They can't, help some of the issues that this expansion has, but there's still some very glaring problems with it nonetheless. And I kind of second the opinions of a lot of hardcore Doom fans, with this expansion. I feel that the levels are really cool. It still looks really great. I think aesthetically it largely looks good. I've got some issues with the final level, but I'll save that in a little bit. The same basic gameplay mechanics are still there, and it still feels really great to play. I have no problem with the lowering of the difficulty of Part 2, because if you're to play through the Doom Eternal experience, you're going to play the base game. The base game is fun, but it has some tough sections, but it's largely, it's doable. You're able to finish that. Of course, obviously, difficulty settings kind of adjust a lot of that, but generally the same thing. And then you get to Ancient Gods Part 1, which is just a shit show. It is everything but the kitchen sink in that expansion. 3 long-ass levels with extraordinarily tough combat encounters, capped off with an extraordinarily difficult boss fight as well. And then Part 2, it slows things down. It's a lot easier. I would still say that for the most part, it's harder than the base game. But when we had the Ancient Gods Part 1, we already they kind of blew their load a little too fast, I guess is just what I'm going to say. It's because I feel like this difficulty curve, it would have been a lot better if maybe Ancient Gods Part 1 had the kind of difficulty of Part 2 did, and then we rose from there, and we kind of got the difficulty what Part 1 was like to cap off the Doom Eternal experience. But
yeah,
and nevertheless, it is what it is. Difficulty be whatever, as long as the gameplay is great, and the gameplay is still great. It's Doom Eternal. It still controls exactly the same. It's fantastic. It feels amazing to play. I've got several issues with this expansion. The first and biggest of which is that I just really do not like the new enemies in this expansion. They've added a few, and that is the rock imp, where you have to. It's an imp from Doom Eternal, except it's gray. And you need to use the rotary rapid-fire shotgun attachment and able to kill them, because otherwise they just barely take any damage whatsoever. After that, you've got the Cyber Baron. So it's a Baron of Hell, but with armor, and it's got a very Marauder type shoot the weak point thing. But that weak point, it's open for, I think, a little too long. It might just be a difficulty thing. I played it on Hurt Me Plenty. I kind of do that to start, and then I kind of work from there. It's not the easiest difficulty, but at least in the difficulty scale, it's a little easier than a lot of, other, but Doom Eternal is still pretty challenging nonetheless. But yeah, I just don't... it's just the Cyber... It's just the Baron of Hell, but just with more health. You've got... Jeez.
You got the Cursed Prowlers.
Cursed Prowlers. Those guys are fun. What if we had an enemy that stripped away your movement mechanics in Doom Eternal, and you basically had to play a glorified game of tag while your health is draining, and you had to blood punch the enemy to kill them, because they won't die otherwise. So if you don't have a blood punch charge, then woe be to you. The enemy's just not very fun. I get where they're coming from with them, but he's just not fun to fight. Those are basically your reskins. I'm sure there's maybe one or two other enemies. Oh yeah, you but little soldier guys in the final level. Whatever.
You just walk into them and they die.
Whatever, they're stupid. But... if you want your challenge, you got Gore Nest challenges where you first one's mandatory, second one you earn a skin. Those combat arenas can get pretty tough.
The extended encounters or whatever.
The extended encounters, and you also have a new weapon. So for those who remember the sword, whatever the hell, what was that called in the Crucible game of Doom Eternal? Crucible. You now have a hammer that's kind of, built the same way, glowy red thingy, whatever. This time it's a hammer. It's way too overpowered. Recharge with 2 glory kills, or just 2 kills, I guess, in general.
It's 2 glory kills specifically.
Well, yeah, because you can kill the Spectre. Oh yeah, no, because they have little pickup things. It's either you grab pickup charges or glory kills, and it's only 2 to get an attack that stuns enemies for an extended period of time and feeds a ton of ammo,
and instantly kills fodder.
Yeah, and it instantly kills fodder, and then it additionally will destroy any Spectre type enemies, not like the actual Spectre or anything like, but like I'm talking to like the summon guys from like the Marauder. That's what I'm kind of talking about.
Oh yeah.
The hammer will extend the stun duration of a Marauder, which makes them even more of a joke at this point. It's Goo Goo Baby win button. I really don't like it. I feel like the hammer would work really, really well if we either toned down like the damage, like if maybe it didn't kill the fodder enemies, or if we maybe changed 2 glory kills to maybe 4 or 5 glory kills.
Yeah, I personally would say increase the amount of glory kills you need, because I do like how overpowered it is, and so it's super satisfying to get it once you do like reach that level. And so if you made it a little more difficult to achieve, like the activation for it, and then you just unleashed it in a moment when like you were struggling, I feel like that would be pretty fun.
It's the Mario Odyssey Moon situation with me, but with a hammer. It's too much of a good thing, and it kind of defeats its purpose after a little while, and it just doesn't become as rewarding as what it used to.
I can see
Nevertheless,
that, yeah.
Nevertheless, it's still fun to use, and it's necessary to use, especially at the final boss. But yeah, I don't know, not a big fan. The level designs are just kind of like alright for the most part. I don't mind the new traversal mechanics. It has continuously doubled down on the platforming of Doom Eternal after there was a lot of criticism about it, and I'm fine with it. I didn't like the platforming at first, but I don't care. I like it now.
I really like the platforming in Eternal. It's a lot of fun.
Yeah, And you've got this new platform mechanic where it's essentially you use the meat hook of the super shotgun to fling yourself around like different places, and it's really fun to do that. I don't have a problem with it. I guess the last thing I kind of have to whine about is just that, you know, when you're approaching the final boss, you know, it's like, you know, this is the big bad and everything, and I'm not going to say any spoilers or anything, just in case whenever this episode comes out, people are probably still working on it and everything. I'm not going to spoil anything, but you would honestly think that the area for the final boss, like the big boss of all of this, would have a far more menacing and hellish layer rather than just a copy-paste of, you know, Urdak, but red instead of white. Yeah, it's... I mean, I get it. I know, again, time constraints, COVID situation, but I would have been totally fine if we just waited. If we waited, I would have been fine waiting. I know they wanted to get it out before the 1 year mark of Doom Eternal, but I would have been far, far more accepting if they waited and we gave it a couple more months and we just, you know, and we got a slightly more polished product at the end. Because, again, this also does have a few bugs in it as well, which is kind of surprising for the kind of a gaming experience from a development team that is largely, at least recently, mostly bug free. So
yeah, I can say there's one bug that I encountered. I didn't encounter like hardly any, aside from maybe sometimes phasing into like the floor or the wall when doing a glory kill, but after I finished the glory kill, I would just reset back to like where I was, so that wasn't really much of an issue. But the big one that took me by complete surprise was, I think I was trying to meat hook an imp or something like that, and I collided with the imp, and then all of a sudden I was just like rocketed like a million feet into the air. And so I
oh geez,
yeah, like I don't know exactly what happened, but yeah, I was just flung way up into the air to the point where I couldn't even see the arena anymore. I could just see like the scenery and like the edges of the map and stuff like that. And then when I came back down, I didn't come back down in the arena. I came back down like outside of it, and so like I just kept falling and I fell through the world. And then I had to like reset, and they don't have like a hitbox below a certain point that kills you if you go too far. And so I just kept falling and falling and falling and falling, and so I had to reset the checkpoint.
Oh, that's fun.
But it was funny for sure, because I was in focus mode, just trying to kill just trying to like get through this arena, and then all of a sudden I'm just like yeeted into the air a billion feet, and I'm just like, oh, okay. I got a laugh out of it at least.
Yeah, so I guess this is how Doom ends, not with a bang, but with a kind of bit of a whimper, but still good nonetheless.
I thought it was more than just a whimper, but yeah.
I don't know.
The last level for me, like in terms of its presentation and stuff like that, I thought it was really dope.
I mean, you're kind of talking to a rather hardcore-ish Doom fan here, so I mean, I'm not gonna say I'm hard to please. You know, the base game in Ancient Gods Part 1 pleased me more than enough. Mm-hmm. It was something else, but I don't know. I just feel like we kind of ended on a far weaker note than we probably should have for this kind of experience. But anyway,
I will say, for someone who is not a hardcore Doom fan and came into the Doom series just with 2016 and Eternal, I will say that I thought the ending was pretty dope. But I can understand that people who are like long-time fans of the series would not have the same reaction.
Yeah. So I guess the last game that I've been kind of playing this week, I've got a little more. I've kind of like, it's been a bit of a grab bag for me, but the last game I'm just gonna mention that I've played over this past little bit is I've been playing the new Crash Bandicoot mobile game.
The what now?
Yeah,
I had no idea it was a thing.
So this was announced around the same time that Crash Bandicoot 4 was announced. we were like, oh, we're gonna get a Crash Bandicoot Endless Runner kind of game. And I'm like, okay. I mean, like, Endless Runners can be, very hit or miss, and this definitely is kind of a miss. It's a modern mobile game, so expect cooldown timers for things and multiple premium currencies and a basic currency that barely gets you anything. Watch ads to extend your playtime. Double your rewards sort of thing. Premium cosmetics with gameplay. It's very pay to win. But nevertheless, it's still very much a very typical Endless Runner, and it's fine at being a typical Endless Runner, though obviously a little more polish and maybe a not so greedy monetization system probably would have made it a little more enjoyable. But I'm gonna stick with it a little while longer, kind of how my stint with mobile games usually go, at least free-to-play ones, is that I'll play a mobile game for a little while, I'll throw a couple weeks into it, but then as expected with all free-to-play mobile games, you eventually get that point where the game is basically unplayable without spending money, and I will let you know when I get to that point and when I retire the game. But that be everything, I think, for everyone. So now it's time to talk about the game of the episode.
Dun, dun, dun.
Me?
Dun 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 dun. No, that was Ben that recommended it, right?
Yeah.
Oh yeah, it was.
I'm just gonna steal.
I thought it was Andrew. Sorry.
Yeah. So we talked for a little while because I did not have a game prepared last time, but we eventually talked about it a little while, and then we decided that we were going to play Halo Combat Evolved. So we all have access to the Master Chief Collection. Me and Ethan have it on PC. Andrew has it on Xbox. And we started off with a multiplayer session. So, let's talk about that a little bit, because that was pretty fun.
Yeah, it was hilarious. Ethan is a lot better than Ben and I. Like way better. I am really bad at FPSs just in general. I don't know how much experience you have in general, Ben. Like, have you delved into Call of Duty online stuff at all?
I've played a decent amount, and there was a period of time where I was going up the ranks of competitive Rainbow Six, and then I decided that I got bored after a while. But so I've got a decent amount of experience with FPSs. Yeah,
at one point, Ethan kept beating us, so it's like, how about Ben and I are on a team versus Ethan? And it was to 50 kills. The thing with those types of matches is sure, maybe it's 2-on-1, but at the same time, the person that's by themselves gets to kill 2 people at once. So I think it'd be pretty hard for us to beat Ethan. But the funny part is that this happened twice. Is that I accidentally killed Ben, and then I got kicked. Wait, actually, no, wait.
You didn't kill me, but you.
Yeah.
No, wait.
No.
I think it was me first. Yeah, I got kicked first.
Yeah. Ben killed me, and then he got kicked out of the game.
and it wasn't even a kick that I initiated. It's just I think it was an automatic thing to where if you attacked a teammate too hard or something like that, it kicked you.
Yeah, and then towards the end of the game, the same thing happened in reverse. And then I got kicked. So the final score was Ethan with 50 kills and Ben and I with 3. Because when you get kicked, all of your kills get reset.
I mean, technically, our team still had all the kills that we needed. So if you looked at the final scoreboard, our team had a lot of kills. But us individually added up, it didn't add up to the amount of kills that it gave us because, our counters are reset.
I just find that humorous. It's 2-on-1, 50-3. was
2-on-1, 50-3, and then we
just
both got
completely
kicked
pitiful.
individually.
Yeah, just pitiful.
Yeah, it was a lot of fun though. That was my first time playing Combat Evolved multiplayer, and
really?
I have played and so I've played like different Halo multiplayers before. Mainly being I've played Reach multiplayer, I've played 3 multiplayer, and I've played 4 multiplayer, and all of them I've very much enjoyed, and so it was pretty cool to go back to just multiplayer, like local multiplayer Halo, but this time with a keyboard and mouse, and so. Coming from Doom though, it was pretty weird because I literally came straight from Doom, to where it was like super fast movement and like super precise like mouse tracking and stuff like that, to a Halo where it's like pretty floaty, like it's almost like you're in low gravity. It feels like compared to Doom, and then like the original mouse settings are set to like kind of work for a controller, and so the mouse sensitivity is pretty low, and so like. And then all the bindings were different, and so I was struggling in the multiplayer originally. But then later on, when I switched to campaign, I bound everything to the Doom bindings, and then up to the mouse sensitivity, and I was having like a lot easier time. I ended up like trivializing normal mode because I was just mowing down everything.
Wait, in Halo or Doom?
In Halo.
Oh, okay. Yeah, I played on normal myself. Mm-hmm. Okay, so this is the first FPS campaign I've ever completed by myself.
I still just can't get over that. Like it's like someone who like grew up in the 90s who didn't see Star Wars until they were 25. It just doesn't make any sense. Yeah. It boggles my mind.
I'm trying to like figure out in my own head like why like I have such a hard time with FPSs and why they just don't jive with me in general. And I think it has something to do with spatial awareness. I think that when I can't see my character and all I can see is their hand and the gun I'm holding, and I can't see the enemies in like full like 360 view, I think I just have a hard time like processing that in my head. Like it doesn't like function. Like how when you take like a 40-year-old who's never played video games, right, and you like try and like get them to play something that's even like pretty simple, they have like a really hard time getting a grasp on it because they just didn't like. The people who are best at video games are people who've been playing them their whole lives. So for me,
grown up playing them,
So it's like trying to teach like an old dog new tricks or something. Like I'm just so used to playing like third-person games, and those are the games I've always played my whole life. First-person games just tend to like they almost don't correlate in my head, which doesn't like that's not like a criticism against FPSs. I just don't know if I can ever truly appreciate them to their fullest extent because they just don't like work with my brain almost. I kind of want to change that. I kind of want to finish Doom at some point. Maybe I'll go through the other Halo campaigns, and maybe at some point it'll just like something will click or something. I don't know if that'll ever happen, but I do kind of want to attempt it at least.
My honest opinion is that I'm sure it will, because you already grew up with game logic, and so you understand game logic, and all first-person shooters is just a different perspective. Really, they all use the same game logic as other games, and so I just think if you force yourself to get used to the perspective, and then kind of train yourself to have that spatial awareness, then I think you'll end up it'll end up clicking definitely at some point.
Yeah, I hope so. So I can actually put up a fight against you guys if we play multiplayer again, which I hope we do because that was a lot of fun. But it sounds pretty hard to get my brain working in that way because I played on normal, which I doubt is that hard on FPS standards. And
depends on the game.
Halo 1s can be a tad tricky on normal in some places, so
yeah, I would definitely agree with that. I was struggling pretty hardcore on a lot of parts. This game is really weird for me. I feel like I have such a weird love-hate relationship with it. I have a lot of fond memories of playing this game with my brothers. I really love the music. I love the atmosphere. Cortana's sexy. Like there's a lot I really like about this game. In fact, there's a lot of parts I love about it. But geez, there was a lot of times where I was just like hating myself and the game while I was playing it. Like so many parts where I just like there doesn't seem to be a lot of health packs in the game. Like I only had like 1 health bar or something, and I was just and so the only way I was able to get past a few parts was just by like leapfrogging past a certain part till I get to a checkpoint. Like it's just really hard, and the like, do you, like, you know, like the last bit with like the warthog where you have to like escape the exploding ship.
I don't know that part because I only got to halfway through.
Oh, so you've never beaten the?
I have not beaten Combat Evolved ever. No.
Okay, well, I mean, spoiler, I guess, but it's like it ends with you gotta use a warthog to like escape like an obstacle course space. Yeah, like you have a time limit.
Okay.
Which it's fine idea in theory, but the warthog, like, geez, like the slightest nudge and you're just going into a tailspin, and you just are constantly flipping over, and you have to get out and like flip the warthog back the other way. And for a shooting game to end like that is, I don't know, that feels kind of contradictory, and I was having a really tough time with that. It took me like 8 attempts, and it was really late at night. I was kind of ready for it to be over, and there's a point in it where like you get to this point where it's like the ship is coming, like you're saved, but the ship crashes, and there's another like second section. I'm like, this game never ends. It just keeps going. But so yeah, the last like 3 levels I was getting like pretty frustrated, but like for the like first half of the campaign I was having a great time like revisiting it. I think I played like co-op with my brother a long time ago, so I remembered a lot of the levels, and I was like, oh, it's so nice to play this again. I love the enemy designs, I love the grunts, I love the elites. I love the sound that they make when they die, like it's great. I love it. Yeah, it's Halo is like, there are so many aspects of it that are like a 9 or a 10 for me, and then there are like awesome moments that are like a 2 or a 3. It is like an insane like mixed bag for me. Like I don't even know if I could possibly rate it. I guess like I would like, I guess I like some parts are like 4, some parts are an 8. So I guess I'd go in the middle and give like the whole package like a 6 out of 10. If you like factor in the multiplayer, I'd probably bring it up to like an 8 because I really enjoy that. But yeah. Anyways, I've been talking for a while.
Oh, you're good. Did you since it's the Master Chief Collection, did you play it like on the remastered graphics or the classic graphics?
I switched back and forth a lot. I thought it was super fun to like just kind of toy around with that. To the game's credit, the original graphics, like sure they're dated, but they have really good visual clarity. It is super easy to read where the opponents are. I really love the contrasting colors of the enemies. Like it's super easy to differentiate them. And yeah, when you like turn on the updated graphics, you definitely lose that to some extent. There are some areas in the original graphics where I think the area is just too dark. And they do rectify that with the updated graphics, and yeah.
Oh boy. I'll let you finish, but I'm gonna go on a bitch mode about those graphics. Give me so.
I'm looking forward to it.
But yeah, like, oh, go ahead.
No, I'm sorry. Go ahead.
I was just gonna say, at the beginning I was like switching back and forth, and like for a little while I sat on the remastered graphics, but then I was like, this is my first time playing Combat Evolved, like for real, so I think I'm going to like just stay on the classics so I can kind of have like a similar experience to like everyone else who played it for the first time back in the day. And so ever since I think I got, so you know, like when you save keys,
yeah,
and kind of towards the beginning. Ever since that point, I've had the classic graphics on, and I've just been playing with the classic graphics. So. And it's actually really cool. I enjoy it a lot.
Yeah, Yeah, like I said, great visual clarity, which is really impressive for the time. I think that's probably a big reason why the game was so successful. It's like it felt like super accessible. It's super easy to like read the environments. They could have gone like full insane mode on like textures and stuff, and just been like GoldenEye or something, where it's like super like nowadays if you look at like gameplay footage of that game, it's like really hard to tell where the enemies are. And I really appreciate that Halo like went the complete polar opposite direction there. And yeah, even like the invisible enemies, with the swords. With the original graphics, I like the glowing swords, and like it's easy to read them. And the updated graphics, like it's a lot harder to read, like, especially with like the invisible enemies. Yeah.
Yeah, there was one point where I literally just got jump scared by one because it was technically in plain sight, but I just didn't see it because there was a light behind it, and it kind of blended the energy sword in, and so like on these are on the remastered graphics, and so because of all that like just brightness, I didn't see the invisible elite, and so like I just died out of nowhere, and I got like spooked. I was like, oh, what the heck? And then I just saw the sword, and I was like, oh, okay.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, really fun first few levels, at the very least. I did like when the flood showed up. I think mowing those things down with the shotgun is a lot of fun.
Oh, I didn't know the flood was in this one.
Yeah.
I thought they showed up in Halo 2.
I forgot about that. I didn't realize that the flood were there from the beginning either. I do like how the story like progresses, where you're fighting the Covenant for the first half, then the flood shows up, and it's kind of like a three-way battle. Like they're also killing the Covenant as well, and the Covenant's also killing you. So it's like a really cool like three-way fight scene almost towards the end. It's kind of
that does remind me of Reach, because they have that in Reach too. There's the flood there. And then in Halo 4 with the, I think maybe I'm wrong, but from what I remember, I think the precursors or whatever they're called, fight the Covenant every once in a while, or maybe they're working with them. I can't remember, but yeah.
Also, there's the elites. They like get betrayed at some point, so the elites are like another faction too, I believe. Like in I forget, like the second or third game or something, right?
I think that might be in the second, because I do know that you work with an elite in the second one, I think.
Yeah.
But I don't really know the story I don't know any of the story from like the beginning of the of Halo. Like every Halo game that I've played has mostly been multiplayer, and the only campaign of Halo that I finished before I got the Master Chief Collection was Halo 4. So.
Interesting.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Anyway, Ethan, you had some stuff to say about the graphics?
Yes, I hate the updated graphics. They're absolutely terrible, and it's the wrong way to play the game. The Combat Evolved is very much built on atmosphere, and that's a consistent thing with Halo. Halo always has a very consistent atmosphere. Now, of course, there are games like Halo Reach where they do get a little techie-y sort of thing, because the remastered graphics are built off of Halo Reach's game engine. It looks like shit. It's over-designed, and it just sucks the atmosphere out of the game. It's like throwing neon lights all over the freaking place, in a place where it didn't freaking need them. It is aggravating how awful they look. The design is terrible. It is over-designing the simplistic stuff that was fine the way it was. I don't mind having remastered graphics. I don't mind. And I also love the idea of being able to toggle between the two. I think the Halo 2 anniversary does a fantastic job of that, because it retains the artistic, cohesive styles of Halo 2, yet it updates it in a way that it looks newer, other than just an up-res like with Combat Evolved. It looks, that's how you kind of do the remastered graphics. These Combat Evolved graphics, they look like shit. It's like trying to it was kind of prototypical Halo 4 in that over-designed, clunky, chunky, overly bright, atmosphere-ripping aesthetics that Halo 4 went on to do, and it's disgusting. Anytime I play Combat Evolved, because I play it through Master Chief Collection, of course, it's obviously the easiest way to play it, and of course playing it with a mouse and keyboard through Steam is always a great thing, but I will never touch those remastered graphics. They're absolute assballs. They're terrible. Terrible. And anyone, I swear to God, anybody who says they prefer the newer graphics to the original graphics need to, be brought back behind the shed and old Yellard, because they're wrong.
I don't know if they're that bad. But,
they're wrong. That is, I'm a firm believer that for the most part that there is no such thing as a wrong opinion, but preferring the remastered graphics to the original is a wrong opinion. It's awful, and it should be punishable by death. It's awful.
Well, I don't know, dude. I think there are some areas that benefited from it.
No, I disagree.
Not everything, but a few. Like the dude, there's this one point like in the final mission where like it's like a tunnel almost, and like in the original it's like pitch black. Like I can't see anything. At least in the remaster, it gives you some lights to see where you're going. Like, I don't know about pitch black being like the better. Like I still got the atmosphere from just like a few red lights that here and there.
Well, you ever play around with your brightness settings? Because you kind of should. I don't think you need to.
Well, am I going to play around with the brightness settings, or am I just going to press one button and just get lights?
That's a good point.
I mean, sure, if you want to completely ruin the artistic integrity of the original, sure. I mean, dude, it's a brightness setting. It's a scroll wheel to turn up the brightness. Every game has it, and every game prompts you to do it for the most part. I don't know. I don't know
if pitch black is artistic direction.
I don't. Dude, are you not hearing what I'm saying? I'm talking about toggling
and I agree with
settings.
A lot of the opinions.
I'm talking about toggling light settings. It is if this is the line that's drawn where things are too hard to toggle a brightness setting in a game, then man, I feel really bad. I'm sorry that's too hard.
I'm not saying it's too hard. I'm just saying that there's other options as well.
Yeah, and sure there is, and of course, and if you want to play with those, you can, and certainly your first time through, it's definitely worth like looking at the difference between the two, because my first time playing Combat Evolved was the anniversary edition on Xbox 360, because that's where it originally released on. And yeah, and I constantly would switch between the graphics. Fun fact, the original 360 version of Combat Evolved Anniversary, you still had the graphics toggling, but there was like a long wait. You had like it faded to black and then it would fade back with whatever graphics that you switched to. Very much a pacing killer. Much better to have it instantaneous or near instantaneous on Master Chief Collection. Mm-hmm. Big props there. But yeah, no, I don't get it. I really don't get why 343 just had to ruin it visually. And I get where you're coming from. I could just press the button and everything's sure, but I get it. I'm not going to fault you for that, especially if you're wanting to continue the momentum of the game that you're playing, but I mean, I've been someone who has always had to adjust brightness settings in games, so I never really got what the big deal is about having to toggle settings around, because every game, again, has you do it, so default settings in a lot of games, especially ones like Halo, you definitely kind of want to maybe toy around with it a little bit, because the game is old. It came out in like what, 2001?
Yeah, really old game.
I think so, yeah.
It's 20 years old. You're not going to be able to get your optimal right out the box. That's just what happens with an older game. You have to play around with it a little bit. And I guess this is coming from someone who plays older games all the time, and not like, yeah, maybe some older console games, but a lot of older PC games too, where toggling things is the name of the game. messing around with Halo is nowhere near as complicated as trying to mess around with settings in a game like Quake or something, trying to get that run on a modern operating system. Especially Quake 2. Oh, kill me. Source ports and all that nonsense. But, yeah. That's my hill to die on and everything. The graphics are just terrible. I just hate how it looks, and it just completely defeats the atmosphere and the artistic direction of the original game. It's ugly, and I just don't think they should be there. It's gross. But if you want to play with it, sure. And again, it's certainly a fun novelty the first time that you play through the game to see, like, wow, bro, look at the difference, man, it's crazy. But as someone who's played Combat Evolved about 10 times at this point, I know the game inside and out, like, you know, the palm of my hand. I can't tolerate it. And I've played through the game entirely on older graphics, entirely on newer graphics, switching between the two. I've done it all. I've experimented with everything that I really can experiment with, mechanically speaking, graphically speaking. But yeah, nonetheless, I'm still just pretty disappointed in the artistic direction. But nevertheless, I'm still very happy that those original graphics are still there, so you can still, play the game the way it should be played. Mm-hmm. You still have that opportunity to play it like that. And of course, when you're talking about darkness and pitch black and stuff like that, I get where you're coming from. But a lot of the shadows of that game, when it's not pitch black and everything, is a huge part of the atmosphere of that game, and those remastered graphics just rip that out. The flood level where they're introduced,
I played that one on
awful,
the original graphics almost entirely. Yeah.
Awful. When you get off, and that's the Pelican, and it's that dark, foggy swamp, you switch to the newer graphics, and it looks like a rave is happening in the forest. It's disgusting.
A lot of blue lights.
It's disgusting. But you switch to the older graphics, and yeah, it's dense, it's foggy, it's gross, it's murky. It gives that atmosphere that it's trying to present. Art direction. Here's the thing.
Is that
last thing I'm going to say about this?
Is that the beginning of
quickly
343 Guilty
Let me
Spark?
quickly just finish this. Yes, let me quickly finish this thought. Now it left out of my head. Thank you.
Sorry.
What was I going to say?
Foggy swamp,
about the art
Raven
direction.
Forest.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. So what I was going to say is that newer doesn't automatically make it better.
Mm-hmm.
When it comes to art in games, artistic direction is extremely important. Aesthetics are key. Not every game needs to be the super polished AAA graphics sort of thing. Games that look chunky and so forth can still look great. Take a game like Medieval as a fantastic example of that. It's a game that released a few years ago, but it looks like kind of like a chunky older shooter. But its art direction carries it because the enemy designs are unique and they look interesting. There's a lot of color. The level designs help kind of shape that artistic direction into an intriguing way that it looks fantastic as you play through it. It doesn't have top of the line Last of Us Part 2 style graphics with state of the art motion capture and stuff like that. It still looks good the way that it is, and that's how I feel about Halo, in that it's that original artistic vision. It's the best representation of that art because it's the original people who made that art, and remaking it like that, and it just kind of defeats its purpose. I would honestly say it's kind of like a modern Hollywood remake of a video game, where it just completely doesn't understand what made the original what made it so good, and it just takes the big poopy on it, and then they just wash their hands of it and say, "Good job, guys," and they leave. And it's like, no, you actually kind of ruined it, thank you. But nevertheless, just like modern Hollywood remakes and stuff, you still have the original movie movie to go back to. So, it's not the end of the world or anything. Just because the game looks like shit doesn't mean that, someone killed your dog or something. It's not serious or anything, but it's still a shame because you see what potential could have been there, and I'll definitely give 343 a lot of credit because when they went on to do the Halo 2 anniversary, they nailed it. I think they did a fantastic job with the direction of the remastered graphics, and that I think it looks great. They did a really good job with it. So you win some, you lose some, and 343, they started really rough on there, and they improved. So, that's always a good thing to see at the end of the day, nonetheless. So, I don't expect perfection right from the get-go, of course, that's obviously very unrealistic to say, but this was maybe a little too rough to be excusable, but at the same time, they improved, and they learned from this game and what they were doing, and nevertheless they get a lot of props in my book for that. So that's my overly long and dramatic rant about the aesthetics of Halo and how art direction is more important than people give it credit for. End scene. I will take my round of applause and roses thrown onto stage as I walk off in a blaze of glory.
What were you saying earlier, Ben?
Oh no, I was just asking about the foggy swamp level, whether or not it was the when you start the 343 Guilty Spark level, because that's where I left off, and I just remember seeing a forest and then quitting the game because I needed to go to bed.
Yeah, that one was definitely one of the biggest. Like, I agree with Ethan that it does kind of ruin the atmosphere of that level specifically, because when the floods show up, it's pretty spooky. I really love the atmosphere at that point. And yeah, for sure, when you turn on the newer graphics, it makes it a lot brighter, and that's definitely kind of contradicts the tone that it's currently setting. And I agree with that, definitely.
Okay, yeah, because I've, like I said, ever since I saved keys, I've been playing on the classic graphics, and so, yeah, I guess I didn't even think to switch it at that time, but yeah.
It's definitely worth a try, though.
To check it out and see how bad it is.
Try it for yourself, yeah. Just to see the switch and just kind of get that shock and awe and how do you miss the point that hard? How do you do that?
Well, you said that Halo.
How do you shoot yourself in the foot so hard?
You said that Halo 2 has also has updated graphics. I haven't played Halo 2 yet, but
yes.
What's the difference? Why is that not a problem for you?
Because they went with the same art direction that the original went for. Halo 2, so for Combat Evolved, they go for a far more overly techy and bright aesthetic instead of the darker, grungier, industrial type artistic direction of the original game. It's completely changing how the game looks from its core fundamentals. Halo 2 keeps the fundamental art structure, but gives it new textures, essentially. They update the textures, the resolution is higher, of course, and, stuff like shadows and things like that look, it's kind of like Halo 2 Anniversary. I'm going to say it kind of looks like how Halo 2 looks like to someone who played it as a kid but hadn't played it in a while. Do you get what I'm saying?
Yeah.
When you play an old game as a kid and you kind of think about it fondly and you think about how it looked, the game looks so good, then you go back and play it and then it's oh, Halo 2 Anniversary looks like how you thought Halo 2 looked like when you were a kid. That's the easiest way to put it, because it keeps the same artistic direction, but it just updates textures, gives it a new lighting engine, but doesn't, completely... it doesn't add anything to it. It doesn't add the weird, it doesn't add random fluorescent lights in a forest. It doesn't add... those annoying, Forerunner-esque architecture to Covenant stuff. No, that's Forerunner shit. It stays with the Forerunners. That looks fine for Forerunner stuff. This is the Covenant. They're not as advanced, and it defeats a lot of the lore stuff, too. I'm a giant geek. Please excuse me. But, but yeah, no, as a, longtime hardcore Halo fan, it makes more sense the more you play through the games and as you kind of get more of the story, and then you kind of see how the aesthetics change and the difference in locales, how that sort of goes throughout the series, and then how you see how 343 just completely just goes batshit with their aesthetics and just kind of really it turned Halo from a unique but interesting sci-fi shooter into another derivative sci-fi shooty bang bang sort of thing, and it just Halo doesn't really look or feel like Halo anymore. Excuse me while I crack open my can of Monster Energy Ultra Zero whatever, sip it and say they don't make games like they used to. Boomer on campus. But yeah, no, it's unfortunate, but yeah, Halo 2 does do a lot of that stuff better. And if you actually get in and you play it for yourself, because I would highly recommend, you played Halo 1, keep going, keep playing all the Halo games, play the 343 games, get an idea how you feel about them. Everyone's Halo rankings are all over the place. My Halo rankings are far different than what the mainstream opinion is, and I've gotten a lot of shit for it. So, yeah, no, it's still cool, and I would say keep going, and check out those Halo 2 remastered graphics versus the original, and you'll kind of get what I'm saying, because I'm sure those who have played and are listening, they understand, okay, yeah, no, I get what he's saying, but to the average person, I sound like a crazy person, understandably. But if you experience it for yourself, I think you'll understand what I'm saying.
I think I kind of get it. Would you agree with this, in that the first Halo's atmosphere is kind of reminiscent of, say, the first couple Alien movies, whereas the later Halo games are more Star Wars, or something like that?
I don't know if I'd maybe say Star Wars, maybe, but I would certainly say that, yeah, in terms of aesthetics and so forth, I would say that the original Halo is very much reminiscent of sci-fi horror in a lot of ways. It kind of reminds me a little bit of Doom, the original Doom, how they're kind of going with that semi-horror direction, though they, original Doom 1 and 2 aren't horror games, but that was kind of their intention from the get-go. It kind of reminds me of that in a regard, kind of a similar sort of structure and end-finish result, and by that I think they did a great job with it.
Interesting. Well, that's all about the aesthetics. As for the gameplay, do you think it's aged well?
Yes and no. Yes, in that Halo Combat Evolved was the shooter game that pretty much enforced how shooters on consoles would function from there on out. The standard shooter on a console structure of move with the left stick, aim with the right stick, shoot with the trigger, that wasn't the de facto control style for console shooters throughout console shooter history. The only other game I think that experimented with that prior to Halo was Alien Resurrection on the PlayStation 1, and the game was critically slammed for that control scheme at the time it released. Critics were like, oh, I think there's an IGN review that says the day that this is the control scheme that goes with shooters on consoles would be a terrible day. I'm paraphrasing, but then Halo comes out and they do it, and that's when it finally stuck, because that's when people started to realize that the PlayStation 2 port of Half-Life 2 is not very good. It feels like shit to play. Not every game needs to feel like GoldenEye, because when you go back and you play a game like GoldenEye, it feels like shit. But there's that charm to it nonetheless. Just doesn't control very well by modern standards that Halo set in motion. Nevertheless, it's still very much the first of the line, and with that, it is rough around the edges, which is understandable. It's how I talk about a game like Mario 64. Just because you were the first doesn't mean you were the best, but you did set something in motion to really get the momentum started, and you had inspired and you had continued to iterate on your formula, and you continued to perfect it as time went on. Nevertheless, I am going to be talking from the perspective of someone who played with a mouse and keyboard, and in my opinion, I feel that the mouse and keyboard controls feel just as good as about any other shooter, and shooters released from that era. I think it still feels really great to play, but to be fair, if I went back to a controller, I would probably feel far more sluggish to try and utilize, and then that's kind of why, usually playing around with sensitivity options is always something that you'll want to do in a shooter, so that you kind of find your ground on what you kind of feel comfortable with, even if you're playing with a keyboard and mouse, or if you're playing with a controller. Nevertheless, you'll still kind of want to find that sweet spot for you in your turn speed, and even auto aim and stuff like that to kind of help you out with your gameplay. So but to make a long rant short, I do feel that the control of Halo 1 overall still feels really good when playing on a computer, but when you're playing with a controller, I could definitely understand and I kind of know for myself that it has aged a little bit, but yet nevertheless its influence is so remarkable that I don't know if you could really fault it a whole lot for it at the time. Now, when things have gotten better, you can come back and say, that's kind of rough around the edges, but hey man, what it started was revolutionary.
Yeah, that's true. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I definitely have to agree. I actually really enjoyed at least the feel of the shooting mechanics. I found it hard to aim, but that kind of goes without saying. But the actual the kick of the weapons and the different uses of them, the plasma pistol and the needler, and the mesh with the assault rifle and the shotgun. Killing the Flood with the shotgun was a lot of fun. That's probably the highlight of the game for me. I really enjoyed that.
It's great.
It
feels so good.
The game feel is quite good. As for the real sticking point with the controls is I thought that the vehicles kind of sucked, but that's I don't know. I think that's pretty par for the course with most FPSs.
Well, no, it gets better over time. I feel that kind of vehicular control scheme kind of stays throughout Halo, but it is improved on in later entries. But in Halo 1, though, especially vehicles like the Warthog feel very
brutal,
slippery, but the Ghost feels very stiff. There's kind of no sweet spot, but I feel it gets better. With every Halo game, the vehicular control gets a lot better in Halo 2, and it gets and it's kind of the same, if not even just a little better, in Halo 3 as well. So, but I agree. There's certainly a lot of jank, first game jank, that you kind of need to work through. But again, that's understandable. It's a first game, can't really fault it a whole lot for that. But again, in retrospect, you can kind of be like, it's a bit janky.
The first Halo game is actually my older brother's favorite game of all time. Would you say that Halo 1 is your favorite Halo game, or is there other ones that surpass it?
No, Halo 1 is not my favorite. It's up there. It's really great. Its influence, and it's a really good game feel, great weapons. But there I have a lot of critical issues with Halo 1, and we'll get to those in a little bit. But I would honestly say my favorite is probably Halo 2, which is kind of controversial to say because Halo 2 was a product of crunch and a lot of budget and time constraints, but I feel that its game feels like really, it's kind of like my Super Smash Brothers Melee. If that makes any sense.
Okay. You just said that. I'm like, okay, that all clicks together. I get it.
Yeah. it's my Melee. It's my Melee. It's kind of jank in some places and everything, BXR mechanics and so forth, but you know, I kind of love it because it is my favorite string of levels and it's my favorite gameplay and my favorite aesthetics of the whole series as well. I think Halo 2 is kind of the best looking Halo game in a lot of ways. But I still love Halo 1. In fact, I kind of prefer Combat Evolved to Halo 3, which is even a bigger hot take because everyone says Halo 3 is the best one. Everyone is, oh, Halo 3, Halo 3. Halo 3 is good, but man, you sure? you sure it's the best? I mean, I get it.
That kind of sounds like Ben with Ratchet and Clank.
Yeah, everyone loves Up Your Arsenal, but I think Going Commando is the best one.
That's how I feel about people that say that Sunshine is the best Mario game. It's like, really, dude?
Yeah,
I don't know.
Really?
Yeah.
I mean, like, I get it, but no.
Yeah.
But yeah, no, everybody has their own ranking of Halo, and I would like to see, you know, if you guys continue to play Halo, because this is both of you guys' first, like, Halo campaign full experience, right?
Yeah.
No, I mean, I did beat 4s, like, twice.
Oh, you've beat 4.
Yeah.
Okay.
Because that
I'm
was
really sorry. That was your first Halo.
Because I grew up not being allowed to play any M games, and so like Skyrim was actually my first rated M game that I played for myself. And then like when I was in I think junior high, I like played multiplayer Halo at like other people's houses, mainly like 3 and maybe a little bit of 2. And then the first Halo game I was able to actually own because my parents finally bought an Xbox that year for Christmas, and that was Halo 4 because that was the newest one at the time. And so I had my only experience with Halo up until then had been multiplayer 3 at friend's house. So
that's an interesting like take then. So your first experience was Halo 4, which I know like
my first full experience was Halo 4. Yeah,
I know that there's like there's like contention, right, with like Halo 4 and 5, right, and they're like trample on the originals.
Yeah,
so that's an interesting.
I never played 5.
That's an interesting perspective to have then, Ben. Is like, how would you compare the gameplay feel between 4 and 1, since 4 is the first one you've played?
I will say, I mean, obviously 4 is the newer game, so I think overall, like, I enjoy the controls, the control feel, and the weapons and stuff like that better in 4. Especially the vehicles.
Yeah, it comes with the territory.
Yeah, it comes with the territory. But yeah, I mean, like as far as I'm experiencing so far, I really like the atmosphere of 1. I didn't really have too much to complain about for 4, because it was my first one, so that's kind of like my baseline. And so, yeah, I mean, like I enjoy 4. I think it was really good. I know a lot of people don't really like it because they grew up with, you know, Combat Evolved 2, 3 ODST, Reach. They had all those to lead up to it, whereas like for me, I was only able to play multiplayer 3 at a friend's house whenever I went over there, like every couple of days or so. And then like back in junior high, and then yeah, the only time I was able to actually play the full game for myself was 4, and that was like the one that I owned. That's the one that me and my brother always played multiplayer on together, like in our free time. Messed around in maps, you know, messed around in Forge mode, and just, you know, like just fucking around and like with the green screen, trying to like survive the green screen. You know, it was you can spawn a giant green screen, and then like one of the games that me and Matthew would play was just one of us would just be a normal Spartan, and the other one would be like, you know, in Oracle mode, like with the green they would spawn a giant green screen, and they would try to like kill us with it. And then we would try to survive and try to shoot him, because if you know, you can still kill someone when they're in like Forge mode or whatever. Yeah, it was fun.
Yeah, I just imagine like a green screen that like Weatherman used or something, kind of like just descending from the heavens.
No, it was just a big green 3D you know, like rectangle thing.
Interesting. All right.
It was just a polygon, and so we would just you'd spawn it, and then you could move it around at like super high speeds, and so like we'd like drive around on like warthogs and like try to shoot the Forge player out of the air, while they were like trying to like hit us with the green screen and like launch us. We would use the Forge Islands map or whatever that was called, and like sometimes we would try to use the green screen to launch each other from like one island to the next on a warthog. And so yeah, I mean, we had a lot of fun with 4. I really enjoyed it. I thought the story was fine. Yeah. So compared to 1, definitely a different atmosphere for sure. But yeah, I'm still enjoying Combat Evolved very much because it still, has that Halo feel. So
nice.
Yeah.
Yeah, interesting perspective to have.
Yeah, it's definitely different than a lot of people in my my age, because a lot of people my age grew up with Halo. But I didn't.
Yeah, this is like
I grew up with I grew up with max rated like T games at max. So I grew up with 3D platformers, the big 3 on PlayStation, and some Nintendo stuff. So
yeah, this is a weird panel to have for like a Halo discussion. You got like a guy that has like never played an FPS campaign. You got a guy that played Halo 4 first, and then you got like a hardcore Halo fan. It's like
it is interesting for sure.
Yeah.
It's interesting, and I think it breeds a really interesting discussion to kind of see all these different perspectives on anything from visuals to gameplay and so forth. I wanted to kind of steer the direction off the gameplay, because I think we've kind of said most of anything that we really can without being a little too derivative and just kind of saying things that people already know about Halo's gameplay. Mm-hmm. And I kind of wanted to bring up the level design a little bit. One thing that I kind of forgot and kind of clicked with me when I was playing Combat Evolved this latest time is that Combat Evolved is still very much built around the boomer shooter philosophy of level design. A very large, spacious, maze-like level designs, but it's a far more cinematic angle in terms of its presentation and even in certain sections of gameplay as well. It's certainly a game that's kind of the stepping stone between old design philosophies and ushering in a new era, and I think that's so cool and a really interesting artistic statement in the AAA gaming industry at the time. I think it's actually quite fantastic in that regard. But that does highlight the issues that I have with this game, and I said I was going to get here, and now we're here. Mm-hmm. Halo Combat Evolved is way too repetitive in its mission structures, in that there are too many levels that are just too long for their own good, and there are several levels that are retreads of previous levels, except this time you're playing it in reverse. Yep. And that is a critical problem with Halo 1. I still love this game. I still think it's a great game overall, but a little more originality in the level designs, as well as maybe a little less cryptic than what it kind of is in some places, really would have helped. And obvious arrows on the ground does not really help that. It kind of it showcases that the devs knew that it was a problem, so it's like, let's just place arrows on the floor so that people know which direction they need to go.
Put that there.
Yeah, I found myself relying on those.
The Covenant design the buildings, and they're like, hey, the layout makes no sense. Perhaps we should put arrows on the ground.
The people don't get lost. It's like the back rooms, but it's
I would have loved a scene where you see a grunt painting an arrow on the ground or something. That would have been hilarious.
That'd be great. But yeah, no, that's kind of the big issue for me, and from the way it kind of sounds like you took issue with that too.
Yeah,
Andrew.
Definitely. I do like the narrative symmetry of going back to where you started. I do think that's kind of cool.
Yeah.
But yeah, definitely really repetitive rooms in some levels, like the control room level and the library level specifically. Yeah. Those two are very repetitive in their layouts.
Yes.
Yeah, the library was like, I think I've been here before a lot of the time, but it was like, no, it was like a completely different room. It just looks the same as all the other rooms. And I don't really get how that's a library, too. It's like...
Yeah. Later Halo games really rectify that issue by the progression of levels being clearly noted in the game via clear visual indicators. Sizes of rooms change, aesthetics of a room change. It's not just the same hallways, except maybe this time there's a grunt in the hallway, so it kind of knows that's where you need to go, or there's an obvious arrow painted on the ground, or there's dead bodies of Marines to try and create some sort of atmosphere there. Later Halo games very much rectify that issue, and again, that's another thing that makes me really interested to see kind of how you guys feel about Halo games going forward, when you kind of see these issues in a game like this rectified immediately with Halo 2 and never really become much of an issue again with the series going forward, with maybe a level or two in like Halo 3 or even ODST or something. But it's certainly interesting to see that, and it's a part of that whole first game jank sort of thing that I was kind of talking about earlier. Again, just because you're the first doesn't mean that you're the best, and that's the case here. So interesting nonetheless in terms of that and that structure and design. So cool, but dated and a bit of a problem.
Yeah, definitely a Mario 64 situation.
Very much.
Yeah, which is totally cool. I did like appreciate at the very least going back to it. And I did, like I said, I really enjoyed like the first half of it, revisiting that. The last few levels I definitely got on my nerves, but I'm still like really happy I like saw it through to the end at the very least.
Oh yeah, it's very rewarding to do that. And also, if you finish the game on Legendary, you get a secret cutscene you otherwise never would get.
I'll never get that. Yeah, I was just looking it up on YouTube.
I've beaten every Halo game on Legendary. The cutscene is Sergeant Johnson is standing outside the Pillar of Autumn, where it's crashed and everything, and it's exploding with Master Chief getting out of there. And Johnson's standing there, and there's an elite, and he says like, "Hold me," and then they like hug as it explodes.
What?
It's yeah, it's pretty funny.
That's hilarious.
I'm not kidding too. You can find it on YouTube. It's a great cutscene.
Okay.
But yeah, no, it's pretty great.
All right.
Obviously Johnson is back in the later games, so it's non-canon. It's just kind of like a jokey thing, kind of a reward for finishing it on the hardest difficulty. But Halo 1's Legendary isn't too tough. It's not that bad. Halo 2, that's what. But other than that,
and
Halo Legendary isn't too bad. Most of the games aren't too bad, but Halo 2 will make you want to rip your dick off and throw it against the
I felt
wall.
that way on
It's
normal
pretty
mode. I'm bad. But hopefully I'll get better eventually. I don't know.
It's just a matter of playing more titles. That's just how it goes, Like, you don't start off being the best at 3D Mario. You have to learn the controls. You kind of have to get accustomed to the tropes and the mechanics that kind of spread throughout these kind of games, and you just get better with it with time. That's how any game genre works. So I hope to see you kind of like try out more shooter games, and I could very much curate you some really cool games to play. It kind of gets you keep more accustomed to the controls and everything, and because there's a whole wide world of great first-person games out there. So many to name, so many. And it's definitely worth checking out. Like, there's so many great platformers out there that I just recently actually finally started playing. I never really played Metroidvanias before, but after playing Hollow Knight, that door has been opened for me. I'm going to be playing more. So, yeah, no, it's a cherry pop situation to, you know, kind of get your foot in the door and get rolling from there. And I'm happy that, you know, the game that really got you started in this is Combat Evolved. Of course, you've dabbled in other first-person games before, of course, but the first one you finished, I'd say this is a really good one to be your first and to expand from there. So you kind of have a bit of a luxury that I guess I never really had in terms of, you know, kind of what your first shooter game experiences kind of are, and to go from there, because you know you got a whole new world available, and it just gets better from here. So they're also, like, obviously shit shooter games out there.
I'm gonna try Call of Duty Ghosts next. I think that's a good, like, second one.
Oh yeah, best one.
Yeah.
I got a couple Call of Duty games I totally recommend you though, but yeah, no, it's cool. But yeah, I guess one last thing I want to bring up is soundtrack.
Yeah, killer.
How's that
I love
soundtrack?
The soundtrack so
Oh
much.
baby, oh, so good.
One of my
man.
favorite
So
video game
good.
soundtracks ever, probably.
Oh yeah, it's excellent. And you know, that Martin O'Donnell and Michael Salvatore score is just excellent, so good. And it just kind of like keeps getting better too, you know, throughout the other Halo games, and they take it in interesting directions further on. It's going to be so cool, like when you play Halo 1, you kind of play Halo 2, it's like maybe a little more of that, but with more guitar work, with one of my favorite guitar players, Steve Vai, behind the guitar. And then Halo 3 is far more strings sections, more airy, sad. And then ODST is far more minimalistic and even a little jazzy in some places. And then Halo Reach is very jungle kind of inspired, but also very urban as well. Ow! Damn it! I dropped my phone out of my hand, and I went to grab it, and I slammed my table. I had my phone hit the ground, and I smacked my hand on the table, so...
It's so good! Smack!
Oh, dang it! Oh, that, like, shattered a back part of my phone.
Oh, really?
Damn.
Oh.
Yeah.
Oh, wow.
Shit. Oh, that sucks.
Oh, damn it.
Oh,
that... Oof.
Only a matter of time till that happened, but, you know, there we are. There's some big old cracks on the top corner of my phone. Damn.
And it got recorded too.
Yeah, got it live on camera.
Yep.
Damn, that looks awful.
That sucks, man. I'm sorry to hear that.
Damn it.
I guess
Well,
time for a
anyway.
case now.
Yeah, I mean, I had a case, but it broke over time. It was just a really flimsy case, so after just even holding it in my hand, it just kind of fell apart. But anyway, soundtrack, Halo,
Pretty
real good.
Yeah.
Yep, and it just kind of keeps evolving from there, and you kind of... It's really cool how each Halo soundtrack very much fits the vibe of the game, because all Halo games are all kind of similar in a lot. It's the same series, of course, but they each have very distinct personalities in terms of their level designs, tone, and atmosphere, and the soundtrack really helps elevate that in a lot of ways. Halo 1's soundtrack is so airy and mysterious because it's, you know, you're exploring a world and a setting that you haven't really stepped your foot in before, and the soundtrack perfectly complements that with some just absolutely fantastic tracks. The rock anthem for Saving the World that plays at the very end of the game, just absolutely phenomenal. Of course, the opening track is great. Ambient Wonder is just beautiful. The Covenant Dance is a fun song. There's just a lot of really great stuff in there that really helps complement the gameplay and the visual direction of the game as well. And I guess that could be another, not to harp on that for too much longer, but I guess I could kind of exemplify some further issues I have with the the aesthetics of the updated graphics is that I don't think it really fits the music nearly as much with that ambient, but kind of like dark and mysterious wonder. The music is still great no matter the graphics that you're playing on, but I guess I feel that the combination, the mixture between the graphics, the gameplay, and the and the sound, the Holy Trinity, the Father, the Son, and the Holy Ghost, they complement each other much more in that original setting than dramatically changing one but not updating the other ones. It feels very out of place and it doesn't gel nearly as well. So, but that's enough of the graphic stuff. I went on long enough about that. Apologies for bringing it back up again.
You're good, man. Yeah. Anything else we want to bring up?
Sorry for talking so much on this episode. I feel like I kind of went really hardcore.
No, it's
here.
good. It just means
you
you're
are the biggest
passionate,
Halo fan here, so
yeah, it just means you're passionate. It's great. Well,
I know Halo like the palm of my hand.
what would you rate it out of 10?
I would probably go with an 8. Kind of a weaker 8. It's more of a 7 than a 9. But I'd say it's a semi-solid 8 out of 10.
Yeah, very mixed bag for me. I give it a mixed bag out of 10, I guess. So some parts are like an 8 out of 10, some parts are like a 2 out of 10. I'm just I want to die. But it's a very a lot of emotions I get from the game, and I'll always have my memories of playing it as a kid. So it'll always hold a special place in my heart, despite some of the very challenging, very difficulty spiky moments. Yeah.
And then I've only played half of it and then a bit of multiplayer. I intend to finish it maybe today, depending on how fast I can get my homework done. And so from that, I think I'll give it probably a solid 7. So from what I've enjoyed so far.
Awesome.
It's pretty fun.
Yeah. Really cool.
Yeah.
And stupid at the same time. Yeah.
And now,
Yeah.
I guess, who has the next recommendation?
That would be me.
That's
Yeah.
Andrew.
All right. And what you got for us, Andrew? Introduce it.
Okay, well, since Elias isn't going to be on for a while, it is the perfect opportunity to recommend I'm sorry. Oh my gosh, a Nintendo game, Jesus. That was weird. Okay, I'm going to be recommending a classic Nintendo game. And I wanted to pick something that I think you guys will both like. So I'm going to play kind of safe. And a game that you guys both have access to. And that would be Super Metroid.
Okay.
Okay, this
Nice.
and Symphony of the Night are the original mommy and daddy of all Metroidvania games. And Hollow Knight is their prestigious son. So I doubt you guys will like it as much as Hollow Knight, but I think you guys will kind of really settle into the gameplay loop very easily. Hollow Knight completely is the exact same thing, so I think you guys will settle into it very nicely. This is actually the third. Super Metroid is the third Metroid game. I kind of want to recommend the remake of the first game, which is called Metroid Zero Mission, but I don't think you guys will have access to that, so we'll just have to start with Super Metroid.
Is that on the 3DS or something?
It's a Game Boy Advance game that has gotten a lot of ports. It was on the Wii U, and that's how I played it.
Okay. I mean, I've got a Game Boy Advance emulator. I play that.
If you want to play both, go for it.
Yeah, depending on how long it takes, and also working a full-time job with overtime recently, so I'll see what I can do.
Super Metroid.
I'll at least play the original SNES
Yeah, Super
version.
Metroid is the first Metroid game I played, and what's cool about the original Metroid quadrilogy is that it actually does have a continuing story, which is really weird for a Nintendo game. But you'll get it. It's not super complicated, but it's it gives you a sort of a rundown of the first two games and the opening, so you guys will get it pretty easily. And I am curious to hear how you guys respond to a SNES game and how it controls. It's very
I love
it's
my
very
SNES.
interesting. The game still looks really good. Its pixel art is great. It's about as good as early Nintendo gets. It's a really fantastic game, and I hope you guys like it.
Cool.
Should I see if I can actually get a SNES copy and play it on my SNES rather than and get that? I should see if I can get a cartridge physical copy.
I do have a
and see if I can. Play
I do have a
that
SNES
version.
Classic. Maybe I'll play it on that. Yeah.
And then Ben will probably play it on the
Online,
Switch.
Yeah.
And that's probably the version that I'll play, but I want to see if I can actually nab a cartridge. I maybe Minus World might have a copy, but they're probably like $30 or so, which that's okay. But I mean, it's a game I'd want to own anyway, so.
Yeah. And I hope this kind of ignites Metroid love. I've played the first 4. I kind of dipped my toes into Metroid Prime a long time ago. Maybe I'll jump back into that at some point. But yeah, I love all 4 of them. Super good games. I played them all like back to back. Like I was like in a total Metroid like obsession period. It's awesome. Yeah, and maybe I'll also play like Symphony of the Night too at some point. I haven't played any. I haven't beaten any Castlevania games. I've finished. Yeah.
I haven't either, actually. I should. But
Maybe
I
like
haven't.
I'll do like a double bill where I play both Super Metroid and Symphony of the Night. Super Metroid is the recommendation, so play that game and like add on other games if you want to like play like Zero Mission if you have access to that, or Symphony of the Night if you want to get both the mommy and the daddy. So yeah, it's up to you, but Super Metroid is like the main recommendation at the very least.
Cool.
Cool. Hope you guys like it.
Sick.
Sweet.
Awesome. That was a good episode.
Yeah.
Hell yeah, baby. Let's get this gamer bread. Thanks for checking back in on the cast. Let's do the plug of the plugs. I am on Medium, Backlogged, Letterboxd. I write for CBR, and so forth, whatever, anything else I have. You'll find everything in the link tree in the description of the podcast. Oh yeah, including my Twitter and so forth. Oh, also, shit, I say this every damn episode recently, but I really need to update our Steam curator page.
It'll happen eventually.
Yeah, no, I can do it today. I got the day off and everything, so I'll just boot up Steam right now and just get that updated. But yeah, follow our Steam curator page. We also have a Steam group that doesn't get updated. Y'all need to post in there, and also a Twitter account that only I use, but Ben has the login too, and he still doesn't use it, even though I ask him to.
Yeah, I just don't use Twitter very often.
Well, you use it enough to shitpost.
Like once a week.
It's more than that, man. I see your tweets.
Maybe, yeah.
I'm calling you out live.
Caught in 4K.
4K.
Yeah, so 4K podcast.
Yeah. Anyway, that's
Yeah.
all the quotes there. All the quotes. All the plugs there. Oh man. Ben, give me your plugs.
You can find me at Thunderfellow on Twitter, on Letterboxd, and on Backlogged. I'm more active on Backlogged than Letterboxd, and I am occasionally active on Twitter. So yeah, I've just been not really been online too much lately, but yeah.
Yeah, I'm also busy with work, so I'm not online a lot either. But you can find some of my art at artstation.com/Andrew Langston, or hell, if you want to like see my really old art on Instagram, you can follow me at AndyTheDrew1 on Instagram. I don't post there very often either, but you can see some like of my old doodles if you really want.
I would highly recommend it. It's pretty cool to check out.
Well, why thank you.
Beautiful. Well, we'll be back next time to talk about Super Metroid.
And remember, the longer the icon of sin is on Earth, the stronger it will become.
Exactly.
I do not get that reference.
You will.
Doom.
All right.